Okay, welcome back to Solo Roll Mangging. Now with Tales of Argosa modified. Modified a bit to be more fantasy and more to my taste. Last time we did a level 0 funnel written for written for low fantasy gaming, so Tales of Argosa first edition. And it was a little hairy, but we only lost one character, so I guess it wasn't too bad. But it's always hard to say, even just DMing for a normal group, there's just so much kind of subjectiveness to the experience of how difficult it should be, decisions a DM makes, decisions players make. You're never really sure. And then you add solo RPG onto that, and then it really gets tricky of like, who knows if I'm just being too casual to myself or whatnot. But it wasn't a bad experience, so that was good. And we defeated some evil cults that was kidnapping people and sacrificing them, so that's all good. And we're gonna skip over the second half where we go to like the nearby town. We'll skip over all that because we want to move on. But we're gonna hit level 1. And one thing that I didn't make note of, or I kind of skipped over, was the list of stuff in the final room, and that included Harriman's strongbox. Locked, maybe picked or broken open with sufficient time / crowbar. Contains 1 × 4 hit dice lair treasure. Not really certain how to read that. 1 × 4 is 4. So I don't think that's the equation here. 4 hit dice lair treasure. It contains one thing. One part of that. So here we have the lair treasure table for Tales of Argosa. And we can see it's scaled based on hit dice. Fine. But then it has... actually, you know what would be a lot easier? Just for our own sake, is going to low fantasy gaming and go to the treasure table there. Okay, hold on. My apparently my Firefox just shattered. There we go. So let's see. GM information, treasure. Obviously, a much less pretty document compared to Tales of Argosa. Okay, so here's the treasure table 4. It has so a 20% chance for a magic item. This is one shot 80%. I'm not really sure what that's meant to mean. And then 12 times 1d100 gold pieces, and then 45% chance of 1d4 valuables. Ultimately, this doesn't really clear it up too much. Am I supposed to just roll on this whole thing once? Or am I supposed to just roll on one of these tables once? I have no idea. I guess we'll roll on the whole thing. Although it seems like potentially a lot of money. But alright, so we have a 20% chance of a magic item. We did not get the magic item. 45% chance of valuables. We did get that. And then 12 times 1d100 gold pieces. So we're going to roll this. We got 14. Pretty low roll, but I think that's fine. And then I have to bring up calculator again. So 12 times 14 gives us 168 gold pieces. Not a phenomenal amount. And I think really we're just going to be spending all that as justification for getting all our starting equipment from the templates. So I think we're not really counting the gold here. If I had rolled higher, then maybe I could justify adding some gold to our personal collection, but I think this is really going to be just for our starting equipment. So then it's the valuables that we have to concern ourselves with, which are going to be these. So we get D4 of these. Are supposed to roll 1d100 twice for each one and pick the one that's more appropriate. Well, let's just roll it once, see what we get. 65. An ornate silver bowl with a sun motif rimmed in gold, worth 550 gold. Okay, so these are like, the upper end here is like 1,500 gold items. Wow. Okay, well then I guess we will start with some money. I'm going to skip over rolling the rest, and we'll just add a number to our storage of funds. So we'll have, we'll have Corin keep track here in notes. So we're going to start with a collective 150 gold. After all our starting equipment is determined. Okay? It's not an amazing amount. I'm shortchanging myself, but it's enough to get started, incentivizes us to keep exploring and all that. So that's all good. So now we're going to get to the process of leveling up to level 1. So let's start with Danton. So if we go to Tales of Argosa, go to character creation and all that. You know, we've already done a bunch of this stuff. We've already done race, background, attributes, blah, blah, blah. So now, class, he's going to be fighter. His luck is going to be 11. He is a human, so he's got 2 rerolls. And the rest is all mostly going to be calculated. So really, we're going to go here, go level 1. Go here, make sure we remove this stuff, because that's no longer applicable. So he has 11 luck. He gets 2 rerolls. He is going to have a 19 to 20 crit range, blah, 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 blah. He's going to have 16 health as a fighter, I guess. No, he's going to have more than that. He's going to have like 18. So, no, not a new class. Although I like that you can just click new class. Fighter. Okay, so 18 health. Solid number. It's based on your con stat of 15, and then fighter gets to add 3 per level. So, yeah, I would say 18 is going to be a very average starting number for fighters here. But the others are not going to be far behind, so... Except for Tress might be a bit. Although she's going to recover from that illness and everything. So he gets, he's going to get Deadly Strikes. Wherever that goes. Yeah, there you go. And he's going to get Adaptable. And now we're going to roll on our template. So his template roll is a 3d6 10, right in the middle there. So we're gonna go down to fighter, templates 10. So he can pick Marauder is the highest option, or he could drop down to Corsair, Ravager, or Thug. So Marauder is gonna start with Opportunist and Long Reach as his fighting styles. So he can pick either one to be his default. And Long Reach is good if you're If using spears, you may make a free melee attack when you first engage a foe, once per battle only. So, not really an amazing default style because it's just once per battle. So it's something like Charger you probably want to switch to right when it happens and then switch back to your default style. His other one is Opportunist. When he reduces a foe to 0 hit points with a melee or thrown attack, immediately make another melee or thrown attack. You may not use this ability more than once per round. Now that's a good default. So I think using a spear, he gets basically a free... There's going to be a lot of free attacks for him, really. He gets a free attack anytime he kills something, and he can make a free attack when he first engages a foe once per battle. So I think Marauder is a pretty solid choice here. Now, I didn't set the equipment based on the weapon style. It sort of was not... A lot of these equipment lists came from Axe, much like all the template titles and stuff. But not all. I didn't take all the template titles because I didn't want to put in like the Legionary and the Auxiliary and the Cataphract and stuff. I wanted a bit more kind of generic fantasy stuff. So I took equipment lists, but I didn't always... It doesn't always match up. So instead of giving the Marauder a short sword, we're going to give him a spear so he can actually benefit from long reach. So 3 javelin, spear, wooden shield, chainmail armor, some clothing, backpack, laborer's tools, mess kit, flask of military oil, tinderbox, 1 week ration, and 10 gold. We could drop down to Corsair. Would give you dual weapons and range. You'd start with a short bow, scimitar, 2 well-balanced daggers, leather armor. Ravager gets Charger, 2-hander with a long bearded axe and a hand axe, chainmail armor. It's pretty good. It is pretty good. And I admit that these templates are not necessarily just like progressively better all the time. They kind of are. Usually the higher ones end up with more gold and like nicer armor, maybe better weaponry. But like, yeah, it's mostly, I guess, about like which adaptable sort of things you want to go with, stuff like that. You know, the highest number always gets a horse, which is a pretty big thing. But yeah, I think Marauder is fine. So we're going to take Opportunist and Long Reach for our adaptable styles. There you go. Hopefully I can remember to actually use those. And then he's going to start with a spear. And 3 javelins. So we'll ditch the dagger and the short sword. We'll go with what he gets. Javelin. 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 Yeah. Really takes up slots here. Equipped. He is going to get a shield, though, and chainmail armor, which we were counting as medium. And I'm probably going to have to adjust numbers because we're following axe armor rules and stuff. So he gets a shield. And he gets medium armor. I think that's what that is. Let's go. Equipment list. Chainmail is medium 4 AC. Okay. So, Tales of Argosa is relatively simple when it comes to armor. Comes to a lot of things like this. Light is +1 AC, no penalties. Medium is +3 AC with -2 on stealth and swimming. And heavy is +5. Same thing, but also -2 on running and climbing. But you get to ignore any negative dex mods to armor class. Yeah, so there's not a lot of granularity there. So we're going to go with X numbers, which add a little bit more variety to the numbers, while generally kind of lining up. Yeah, I mean, they generally kind of line up. There's just like... there is going to be a better light armor, and there's going to be a better medium armor option, and a better heavy armor. There's just basically one better option across the board if you want. Now, the issue is, Shadow Dark, again, it's quite simple. It actually works reasonably well, where we can just count the AC that it gives as the number of slots it takes up in your inventory. Done and done. You know, heavy armor is quite encumbering. And that's where you just can't carry much with if you got really heavy armor on. And it worked out pretty well, I thought. I thought it was a nice system. Here, however, equipped armor never takes up any slots whatsoever. Which means that there is really no downside to taking the heavier version of the armors. You know, there's no downside to taking chainmail over ringmail. There's no downside to taking leather armor over padded armor. I don't think I could really do much about that. If it wasn't... yeah, I mean... yeah, if it wasn't... if they didn't separate battle gear and pack gear the way that they do, I think it would be easy enough to just copy Shadow Dark system. And to be honest, I could just do that. If I was playing on pencil and paper, I would probably institute that pretty easily. Just, yeah, just, you know, you have an inventory, it's a number of slots equal to your strength, blah, blah, blah. And your armor takes up slots based on its AC value. Because that would allow us to do basically the same thing as Shadow Dark. Because in this case, let's see, I have 6 slots left. So yeah, if I took up 3 of those, we'd have 3 left, which puts us pretty much in line with what we had with Shadow Dark. So I don't know if there's a way to do that. I kind of doubt it. I kind of doubt it, because unless we just... we can't have it list as armor and also have it take up slots while equipped. There's just no way to do that. I could just create dummy items, I guess. I guess that might be the way to do it. Just create dummy items that take up pack slots. That would probably be the easiest way to kind of to work this out. So armor, and this will just be, yeah, equipment, and we'll put dummy. Okay, so this will take up our pack slots in pack gear, and we can just, I guess we do, yeah, we just do. Okay, there you go. So that's a rough approximation of how I would do it if I had ultimate freedom with the VTT. So yeah, you know, I don't know, it just felt good with Shadow Dark. It felt proper. It's just like I felt like if you're a knight, picture a knight. Picture a fucking knight wearing like full plate armor or something. He's not carrying shit with him, you know? He's not loaded down with, like, various packs and bags and sacks, and he's got all his goodies and stuff, and he's like, oh, let me check my pack now. It's like, no, he is built for war. He's built for combat, and that's what he's designed to do. So I think there should be pretty big penalties to your carrying capacity if you're wearing heavy armor. An axe certainly seems to get that, but there's no surprise there. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty simple system, ultimately, and I think that it just works for me, at least. So, we're gonna go with that. Which means that he's pretty much good to go. Because he's got... Oh, we have to... No, we got chainmail armor, so that should be a +4, right? Yeah, that's a 4, so that's actually 4 slots. So, AC bonus of 4. For a 17 AC. So we need another dummy. So, okay, he only has 2 slots available at the moment. He could ditch the helmet. He definitely could. Because he can probably survive a crit anyways. Although, you never know, don't get cocky. We saw what happened at the end of our Shadow Dark game. And that wasn't even a crit. That was just disaster. Actually, I wonder if I did get crit at some point. One of my characters. And I could have used a helmet. I feel like a helmet is a really easy thing to just forget about when I'm juggling 4 characters. Where it's like, if I have one guy and it's like, hey, I crit you. It's like, no, 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 helmet, no. Maybe. Maybe. Anyways, the last thing, I think we have skills. So every fighter, no matter what, gets leadership and athletics. Leadership and athletics. That's what they are all about. We can do con, I guess. Hell yeah. I don't know if those are meant to be 2 different skills. I guess, yeah, you might have to roll athletics con versus athletics strength. I don't know. Who knows? Then our Marauder also gets wilderness lore. Apparently I put athletics twice. So I guess we'll change that to acrobatics. Makes more sense than having athletics twice. Wilderness lore and animal lore. Charisma. We got some lore despite my low int. Oh well. Skills aren't that huge of a deal. Alright, and then I think we are good. Oh no, we have a bunch of other shit. The clothing we can not worry about, it just kind of for flavor and stuff. But we do have a backpack, toolkit, mess kit, military oil, tinderbox, week of rations, 10 gold. Okay, there's no way we can carry all this shit. Honestly, though, I don't think I need 3 javelins. So we could probably ditch at least one of those. I think a backpack is just implied in this game. I don't think that's a piece of gear that you have. So everyone gets a backpack. Laborer's tools. I could probably ditch that. Mess kits. Yeah, I mean, some of these things, again, I just copied from Axe, which is very specific and obviously cares about all these things, but I'm going with the oil flask. Now, this isn't military oil, but it's close enough. And then we have a tinderbox for some reason, which also isn't an item. Are you serious? That's not an item in your game? You didn't want to put in... you don't have flint and steel or tinderboxes. How did that pass inspection? Doesn't that seem wild? Did I add that at some point because I was like outrageous? Yeah, tinderbox. Of course I did. All right, we'll add it to his battle gear, I guess. We'll add the... Oh, he was going to sell this fungus. So he gets 10 gold plus whatever he can get for this fungus. So we'll give him a personal amount of 45 gold. There we go. So we'll move the Fire Blood Poison over to Battle Gear, because that might be useful. And now he's got a total of 2 slots ready to go. That's acceptable enough. I'm sure we're going to hire a porter, lantern bearer kind of character again anyways. So it's all good. He's built for war. That's his purpose. I think that is it for Danton. Is he illiterate? No, he's at -1. He's okay. We could pick age, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, we could choose to have an old character. That is very true. Okay, but I think Danton's done. So now we're going to move on to Corrin. So, level 1. And she is going to be our ranger. Ranger. Alright, so she's going to start with 16 health. Blah, blah, blah. She is also human. She gets 2 rerolls. 11 luck. Good, good, good. And we will roll for our templates. See what she gets. She got an 11 as well, right? Right in the center. So, Ranger 11 is the Waykeeper. So, gets every Ranger gets Animal Lore, Wilderness Lore, Stealth. Waykeeper is also going to get Divine Lore, Persuasion, and General Lore. You know, Lore, not insanely good for her with her low int. And Persuasion, not incredibly good either with her lower Charisma. Ranger's Ointment and Healing Salve as her 2 Ranger craft. She get a crossbow, short sword, chainmail. You know, various kind of adventuring stuff. Iron spikes, rope, oil, tinderbox, torches. It's not bad, but if we drop down to Scout, we'd get Acrobatics, Detection, and Traps and Locks, which is... Actually, her Dexterity is fucking atrocious. So that's probably even worse. But she would get Sharpshooter and Slip Away, and start with a sturdy longbow. And Scale Armor. That might be better. Underneath that, it's all going to be short bows, so I'd probably prefer the longbow. So I guess we'll go with... I'm leaning towards Scout, I suppose, just because I'd rather have Sharpshooter and Slip Away than the Ointment and the Healing Salve, since we have a Cultist in our group. It's no guarantee we're going to get Cure Wounds, at least at level 1, but... Yeah, so alright, we'll go with Scout. Shall we get Ranger Craft? And we get Sharpshooter and Slip Away. Pretty good. And then we have to add in now a new ability for Duty Bound. This is going to be a ability? I think ability? Yeah, ability. Duty Bound. This is a class ability, a general one. It does not have uses. And it is, let's see here. When you miss an attack, your next attack on the same target before the end of your next turn is made with a +2 bonus. Wouldn't it be amazing if I could, like, program that to work? But no, that would never work. So this is just gonna have to be something we remember. Yeah. So it just is what it is. Alright, we don't need to do any of that. So duty bound. Boom. Okay, so sharpshooter. Before rolling for damage with a ranged attack, you may trigger this talent to make a perception check. If successful, your hit causes critical damage. So this is when you hit, before you roll damage, you can just trigger this to do crit damage. And with a 15 perception, she is very likely to succeed on this. It's once per combat, but still, it's pretty damn good. What is crit damage in this game? It's a double. Max damage plus half level. Okay. Max damage plus half level. Round up. Okay, so her bow is like a D10. Probably not D10, it's probably a D8. That would be 9 damage guaranteed, which is pretty nice, rather than rolling some bullshit. Alright, so she can ditch the short bow, that's gone. She gets, bow long. It's a D8 damage, okay. Good. She gets quiver, she gets short sword and dagger. She gets scale armor, which is also medium, but I think it is 3. Yep. Scale is 3. That's going to be whipped. And we will take up 3 dummy slots. I don't think we actually have to have arrows as a slot, because that's part of your bow, is how they do it. So we don't actually have to have arrows. Oh, it doesn't take up a slot anyway. Okay. What else did she get? Get some clothing, wind-battered fur cloak, leather belt, low boots, backpack. She gets a lantern. That's good. We like lanterns here. Lantern or lamp. Lamb. She's a lamp and a tinderbox. She gets a bunch of stuff. We can't carry all this shit. Not without moving more to battle gear. Okay, well, let's just add a bunch of stuff. She gets oil flasks. She gets a blanket. She gets 50 feet of rope. We have that. Iron spikes, very useful. Spiking doors before random encounters occur. Spikes iron. Take 5, that's fine. Small hammer. Yeah, another... Oh, that is represented there. Hammer. Water skin and week of rations, which... Danton also needed. There you go. Again, we're going to want to get a porter pretty damn quick here. But we can move some things over to battle gear, and that's fine. Technically, I think your armor slot should take up battle gear. That makes way more sense. Does make a lot more sense. Just trying to figure out how he has this many slots taken up. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it must be counting his shield. Does count his shield. Okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense as well. Okay, well, can we shift this around and move 4 things over? Not really. This is why I don't like this separation, although I guess I get it. It makes sense as to what you can access quickly in battle versus what you can't. But I suppose we'll leave dummy armor and pack gear. So we'll move the lamp over to battle gear. She can carry a fuck ton of shit. "17 strength, boy." We can always ditch a dagger if we needed a little bit more room, but she's got 3 slots open. So it's fine for now. I think that's fine. Man, even with fucking scale mail armor, she still only has 11 AC. That -2 dex is just pulverizing. She really would be interested in heavy armor, but I'm quite certain rangers can't wear heavy armor. Yeah, so that's never going to happen. A 5 dex is her downfall, but that's why she's always in the back with a longbow. So we'll leave it at that. Then her skills. For a scout: animal lore, wilderness lore, stealth. We will get this. Animal lore, wilderness lore, stealth. She'll probably never use. Acrobatics, detection, trap, and locks. Acrobatics probably never getting used. Detection, though, all the time. And traps and locks, probably not. But we'll see. I do believe we are done. I think that's everything. Good. Corin done. Moving on then to Villagrad, who will become our magic user. He's going to study that tome that he obtained. So, class magic user. He's going to get sense magic and spellcraft. Once per day or once between rests. More probably, but you never know. You might not recover it during short rests. Depending on your will. So will is important for magic users. We gotta level him up to 1. Delete this. Delete this. He has a very nice con, so he's got 16 health. 11 luck. He's human, so 2 rerolls. So on and so forth. And then we can roll our template. 3d6, another 11. See, this is usually how it works. Sometimes you get really lucky or unlucky, but this is usually how it works. So his highest option available is the Classicist. They get Mage Armor and Magic Missile to begin with. And just, you know, the most classic kind of mage you can have. It's a pretty solid choice. Magic Missile, as we know, is always quite useful. Now, with the higher end health scaling, the slightly higher end health scaling, Magic Missile is not as good at level 1 as it is in Shadowdark. Especially because we can't spam it. Although we could, Yeah, we could keep it that we have advantage on the spellcasting thing. But the fact that you can't spam it kind of hurts it, so we might want to actually change Magic Missile to be more like OSE, like actual proper old school Magic Missile, which is 1d6 plus 1 damage. Probably a little better, I think. And then we have Mage Armor, which is, as usual, pretty solid. Lasts for 10 rounds. Your armor class becomes 14. Which, yeah, I don't think he'll really be able to get to otherwise. With light armor, even so, you can put on leather armor, I guess, which would be 12 plus 1, so he'd be 13 without mage armor. He's pretty up there with the dex score. Since this system does allow magic users to actually wear armor. If he wasn't allowed to wear armor, he'd be sitting at 11 normally, which, yeah, you know. Otherwise, we drop down to Elementalist. We get Summon Elemental. And then our choice of Burning Hands, Shocking Grasp, Icy Touch, or Passage. Sort of representing various elements. Pretty similar, but yeah, Summon Elemental could be pretty useful. And Passage, if we wanted to get into some shenanigans, could be pretty useful for like passing through solid walls. So Summon Elemental for 3 rounds. Summon is level equal to your caster level, so hit dice equal to our caster level. You get to choose the type of elemental. Performs any task including combat. Makes melee attacks with a bonus equal to your level. AC of 12, deals 1d4 magic damage of its type per level. And we can only have one at a time, but obviously. So I think Summon Elemental could be decent for just mopping up some shit. It's going to have like 4 hit points and AC of 12. So it's not going to be super sturdy or anything. But it's not bad. And then Shocking Grasp is a melee thing. 1d6 damage to a single target that you touch. We could send it through water. It has no, like, restriction. So, again, based on this, you can put your hand in the ocean and deal 1d4 damage to every living thing in the ocean. Yeah, that should really be... There should be a range here. Like, out to far, maybe. Like, our version of far, not Shadow Dark's stupid version of far that's within sight. So, like, 60 feet, basically. And even that's probably pretty generous. Then there's a Passage... Creates a magical door through a solid wall so you and several others can move through to the other side. Up to 5 feet thick. And then anyone within has to make a dex check versus DC 18 or be crushed to death when it closes. Yeah, I think quite a bit of use there. That might be what we go with. Icy Touch is another melee thing. Yeah, I mean, it's got some uses as well. And then Burning Hands, obviously, we know all about Burning Hands. Just everything in melee around you. 1d6 damage on intended flammable objects ignite. It's pretty good if we want an attack option. Although, yeah, you'll note that all of these are like melee, because there wasn't really any elemental stuff that wasn't melee. Shockingly. That's why I had to grab Passage. The rest of this is all... the only other thing is Dragon's Breath, maybe? Wait, let me look at Dragon's. I didn't even look at it. Allows you to spew forth a burst of fire from your mouth like a dragon. 1d4 plus 1 and fire damage to a single target. It's not very good. And it's also melee. It's range close. So no. Like, the only ranged attack spell you get is Magic Missile within this list. And I don't think this list of spells is the end-all, be-all or anything. I just know that it was simple, and, you know, text is mostly pretty short. It works for OSR, blah, blah, blah. But we could have easily just used all sorts of spell lists. You know, I could have gone to Glog and taken just gobs and gobs of spell lists. We could just use BXD&D's spell lists. But that wouldn't really solve this problem because your only attack option is Magic Missile. So I suppose. What do you expect? So, but I think we'll go with Elementalist. I think we're going to go Earth. So we're going to get Summon Elemental. I didn't really put it as a restriction that you could only summon Earth Elementals. But that's kind of the intention. And Passage, so we can maybe move through walls, which would be pretty good. So now we have to do the annoying thing of converting these spells. But we should be able to just go here, click Spell, click Summon Elemental, Intelligence, and then we just kind of copy mostly what it says here. Duration of 3 rounds. You can't actually, there's no fixed durations. Okay, I guess we'll go 2d6 rounds. Sure. And then range is touch. Close is within like 30. So we gotta go touch. Hit dice and attack bonus equal to level. AC 12. 1d4 damage. That's pretty much it. And then I'll put the whole text in there. Okay, summon elemental, good. And then we also get Passage. Passage. So this is 2 rounds. Again, like, I can't believe they don't let me set a specific duration for a custom fucking spell. I think this is also touch. Intelligence. Create opening in solid wall. No more than 5 feet thick. Okay. That's what we get. So remember, we can only cast 1 spell between recovery, between rests of some kind. So if we cast Passage and then we go into a fight, I can't cast Summon Elemental. So it is definitely lower magic than Shadow Dart. Shadow Dart is quite heavy on magic, actually. Some might say the heaviest magic system that I've ever seen. not quite, but like the amount of spells it's possible for you to fire off. I suppose, there's like cantrips in most modern games. And I guess Shadow Dark is lower than that. But being able to spam sleep 10 times a day is pretty obscene. So we're definitely lower than that. But higher, I think, than actual old school D&D, so it's fine. We get then skills. We get arcane lore and apothecary. Everybody gets that. Arcane lore and apothecary. You also get watercraft, detection, and general lore. It's a pretty good setup, except for watercraft. We get our spell book. We get a staff. So we'll just grab staff. We get 5 darts, which are not even included in the game. They didn't want to have darts. It's a classic. We'll bundle them in packs of 5, because I think that's the easiest. So this is going to go battle gear. Yeah, consumable. Well, is it though? You can recover darts. Alright, we'll mark it as consumable. These will just do 1d4 damage. Equipment type weapon. Weapon type ranged. Metal. Sure. Number of hands 1. Damage 1d4. This would be missile trauma, but really just like the lowest of missile traumas. Probably 1d4. Do they really not have darts in this game? I mean, I guess it is kind of a weird thing. It's always weird for me to picture mages throwing like darts as in combat. But I don't know. Is it meant to be more like a lawn dart than an actual like game of darts? I mean, even the sling does 1d10 blunt trauma. Maybe we should make it. We'll make it a d6 on missile trauma. It could still. I don't know. I guess it could put out an eye. But some of these options are going to be kind of crazy. Yeah. I don't. I could see skull tap happening. I guess I could see up to a wounded arm or hand. I don't know if, I guess I could kind of see a lot of this as happening, maybe. Is this meant to be pointed, or is it just like a blunt? I think it's meant to be pointed. I guess it could be anything, but if we go to here, short bows don't even get D12, so I can't give that. I don't know. I guess I could see a D10 if I want to be generous. So we'll go D10 to be generous, just because I like trauma. Okay, so there's our darts for Villagrad. He'll keep the dagger. He'll keep the dagger, but he's gonna go with this. Yeah, good. Well, actually, I probably should have a range for these things. Far? I'm gonna go far? Is that reasonable? I don't know. That seems kind of far. What's... Darts. No darts. EXD&D didn't have darts? When were darts introduced? Shadow Dark have darts? No, Shadow Dark doesn't have darts either. Shadow the Weird Wizard have darts? No. Darts? Where the fuck are darts from? Axe might have darts. Of course it does. Okay. 15-foot short range. 45-foot medium range. Okay, I think that we can reasonably then go with close range, which is within 30. So it's like, yeah, it's like throwing a dagger, essentially. So we will go with that. Close range. Darts are done. He also got some clothing, backpack, quill and ink, water skin, 1 week of rations, and 60 gold he gets himself. Magic users usually start with a lot of money because they don't spend much on equipment. And he's got his iron tongs just in case. So I will give him his rations. He also can't carry a whole lot, so that's good. He can wear leather armor. We might want to buy it for him, but he doesn't start with it. Okay. Is that Villagrad done? I do believe so. Pretty simple stuff. Okay, last but not least, we have Tress, who's going to be our cultist. Cultist gets Sacred Lore and gets Divine Spellcasting. I don't really want to add Blessing, so... there's no way to just add it here. Okay. Then we will create it here. Ability. Divine Spellcasting. Cast divine spells. Yeah, I mean, we don't really have to go into all this sort of stuff. General uses 1. Yep, that is also correct. And that's really all we need to say. I mean, all that matters is that 1 out of 1. And then we're going to go into spells. So let's roll our template for our cultist. 8. Apparently I just consulted the bones for some reason. Oh, that was 11 minutes ago. Anyways, yeah, so we're below average on our cultists. So the top thing we can get is Mendicant, which we're probably going to go with because it gets Cure Wounds. Only 2 of the templates get Cure Wounds, the Mendicant and the Priest, which is the most likely result. Cure Wounds and Turn Undead is a very classic Priest here. But otherwise, yeah, there is a lower option you can take to get Cure Wounds. But it also then gives you Sanctuary You get a wooden walking staff. You get scale armor, which is pretty good. But your weapon's pretty shit. You start with only 5 gold. And not much. And you get the Sanctuary spell, which is, you know. But Cure Wounds. Otherwise, we could drop down. You'd get, like, Detect Evil and Light. A Sling with leather armor. Or the Hermit gets Speak with Animals and Weather Sense. Really not a very attractive option for most people, I think. You get Hide Armor and a Staff with Itchy Pants. Yeah, we'll go with the Mendicant, I guess. We get Apothecary, Divine Lore, Gather Info, and Persuasion, and Wilderness Lore. And we have to add Cure Wounds and Sanctuary. So we're going to go back to Novice Magic. Sanctuary. 3 rounds on yourself. Cause opponents to completely ignore your presence for the duration as if you were invisible. You can perform non-hostile actions, including casting support magic. If you make any attacks, the spell will end. Well, it's kind of vague. Are you technically invisible? Is this like just no one even really... It's like that hat in SCP where people just kind of forget that you exist even right after looking at you. Is that what this is meant to be? I guess it's only 3 rounds. I suppose? Well, it's not, I mean, it's not a spell that's been made up just for this document. Obviously, the intent is just like in combat, and you're just not targeted. You're just not going to be targeted by attacks. Now, what happens if I do doorway strats, but instead of Danton in the front, I put Tress and she has Sanctuary on? How does that work? Yeah, the D&D version of, like, 5th edition is a bit different. And I feel like this might just be from 5th edition. But, it's also in Shadow of the Demon Lord, sort of, where it makes you hidden for the duration, but then enemies can find you. Oh, and here's from... This is from 2nd edition AD&D. But see, this is also different. This says, any opponent attempting to strike or otherwise directly attack the protected creature must roll a saving throw versus spell. If they fail, they lose track of and totally ignore the warded creature for the duration of the spell. Well, okay, I guess if we did that, the doorway strat thing, there is rules, right, in Tales of Argosa for moving through Yeah, you block a melee. Enemies cannot move through the space without first removing the defender in some way. Or maybe I'm thinking of Shadow Dark, which has rules for you have to make like an opposed dex check or strength check or something. Which it's not hostile. I mean, you're just like standing there and your arms are out, your legs are out, you know, you're just kind of trying to be a wall. I don't know. Really don't know how it would work. But maybe it's not the most useless spell ever. Sanctuary. Willpower. Self. Again, 2d6 round. We can't go less than that, even though this is all getting to be pretty obscene. Unless I can do special. Well, yeah, I could just put special and then we type the duration in. That's probably what it should be. Yeah, okay. It's pretty simple text, pretty simple spell, but perhaps quite effective. There's Sanctuary, and then we also have Cure Wounds. Classic. This is going to be Touch, Instant, and Cure Wounds heals for 1d6 plus... No, a number of d6 equal to your level. Number of d6 is equal to 1 plus half your level round down. So it's just going to be 1 at level 1. But then it gets a big bump at level 2. Okay, so most of the time we're just going to be saving everything for Cure Wounds. But you never know, Sanctuary, there might be a plan that comes together. We also have to pick a deity for favor purposes, but I feel like I tend to just ignore it, and I haven't figured out what I want to do with deities. In general, I like Tales of Argosa's system of deities, and that we put it in Shadow Dark for a reason. I like that they all have tenets you have to follow, you know, and they each give different benefits. But yeah, I haven't quite figured it out what I want to do with the ones that add spells. I don't know if I just want to give it as a third spell option. Like, at the start, you just get that spell as part of your collection, like I did with Shadow Dark. Or if I want to just make them spell options you can select in the future that are exclusive to that deity. Or if I want to just remove that entirely and have maybe something just like give it like abilities, like once per day, or you can replenish it or something, and different types of abilities that you could use. I'm not quite sure. So we'll leave that. I won't get into all that whole ball of worms yet. Sure, then that's all good. Oh yeah, we got rid of that. That's all good. We're level 1. Blah, blah, blah. We can remove this. Everything got patched up, so that's all good. Her con is pretty shit. So that's not great. She's an elf, so she only gets 1 reroll. So her con's bad, and... Oh no, there we go. That's better. Her con's not amazing, and she has disadvantage. But she still has 14 health. Yeah, okay. And a luck is going to be... It shouldn't be 11. You start with 10 luck, I thought, normally. No, you start with 11 because it's plus half your level rounded up. And... Oh, no, humans don't get a bonus to luck. But they do get +1 to an attribute of their choice. Oh, ho, 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 I never did that. Okay, well then. Villigrod could go for that 16 int. We want to make sure we casting shit, or you could go for a higher will to make sure we recover our spells. I kind of lean in that direction, to be honest. Yeah, the modifier does go up, but mostly we actually just care about the higher number. Danton. Yeah, strength, of course. It gives us the extra mod. No brainers there. Pretty sweet. And that gives him another gear slot, which is great. And then Corrin. No, Corrin. Does 6 give us anything? No, I mean, it bumps up initiative slightly, but it doesn't change the mod. Corrin, what are we going to do with you? It's not that hot. I mean, the 17 strength is phenomenal, but... yeah, I'm not sure. Well, we do get +1 attributes every level, so eventually her dex might be reasonably acceptable. So I guess we'll go dex. Maybe someday, Corrin. That's pretty much everything for Tress except for equipment. Yes, so let's do equipment. Mendicants get holy symbol, a wooden walking staff. So we're gonna ditch her other weapon. We'll assume that but she can't actually use it. She can only use blunt weapons now. So she'll get a staff. She gets scale armor, which is pretty excellent. Medium armor of scale. So that means 3 dummy slots for that. And yeah, not much. 2 weeks of rations and 5 gold is all you're looking at. Very, you know, she discovered God and just wandered. She's just been wandering a lot. Bunch of rations and 5 gold. Okay, I think that's kind of it. Really? I think our characters are made. All right, good. We're all done. So, you know, we went our separate ways after that whole funnel disaster thing that we conquered an evil cultist that was doing very nefarious things to people, and we saved the day. We rescued all the other, travelers except those that died horribly. And we discovered, within each of us that we had a yearning for something more. So we went our separate ways after that. Some time passed. Who knows? Maybe a year. Who knows? And Danton, went off to war or something like that. Became much more battle-hardened. And Corrin, I don't know exactly. Did ranger stuff out in the woods. Mercenary work, maybe. Who's to say? Villigrad immersed himself in studying tomes, starting with the one that we found, which was the Nova Scriptura. So he developed magical abilities, and then Tress found God and just wandered the land, learning and improving herself. But then we all reconvene we all happen to reconvene for whatever reason, incidentally, at our starting village, and we decide that together we can do more than separate. So we decide to begin a new adventure together. All right, so we need a hex map. We need a hex map. So what we're gonna try is, this app is probably gonna crash multiple times, and I haven't actually successfully done this yet. But we're gonna try developing a whole world map from Worldographer. Because last time we just developed a little region and blank, but here, you know, you can actually generate the entire world randomly. So if we go world and gets, you know, a seed, something, yeah, maybe something like that is fine. This is 200 hexes wide by 100 hexes high, and this is at the world scale. I don't know what the intent of the scale is to be, but obviously pretty big. We're not going to generate hexcrawl options at the world scale. We'll do that region by region. We can chain, you know, if you really want this to be kind of a desert world or an especially swampy world, things like that, but we are fine with this. So yeah, we're going to just see how it goes. So it's generating the coasts, it's adding rivers, 200 rivers, placing the empires, and there you go. Now we have our entire world map of hexes, like so. And so it generates empires, various empires. So this is the Manberg Empire, this is the Anko Empire, and you can very faintly see like the sort of borders of the empires. I could remove some, I could filter some stuff so we could see it better, but yeah, in general you can see there's 10 empires across this whole area. So now I want to save this as just whatever, because it's probably going to crash soon. So now we want to, what was the option here? Here. So now we're going to move down to the continent level instead of the world level. So this is going to, generate, like, you know, 6 tiles for every single tile on this world. So we're multiplying the number of hexes by 6 to get this. So now we have much more detail. And you can see on the mini-map, like, how far, like, yeah, obviously insane. And if I keep zooming out, it's, I think that's actually how far you can zoom out. So, yeah, far more detail. So now we're going to save that as well. Because that I could do that continually. But where it gets really tricky now is if I want to zoom down to a specific region. So let's say that, what region would be interesting to start in? We want something in the mainland here. Something kind of on the borderlands. Not next to one of these major cities, but, you know, somewhere 50 miles or 60 miles or something from a major city that's in kind of the heart. You know, we want to be somewhat on the borderlands, within a tropical region. So, like, this is all borderlands. Like, none of this is claimed. Here we have a big city in this wooded area. So we probably want to be, there's probably going to be settlements like on this river here. And this is definitely the border of the empire. So right here is where we want to be. Okay. So Now we zoom down to kingdom level. So now every hex here is going to have 6 more hexes. And this is where it really just craps out. Like, it just can't hold all that in. It's generating and filling in a lot of hexes. 25 million hexes. Okay. Oh. Did it crap out? Usually just instant closed. I'm not sure what to think of this. I hope OBS doesn't get affected. Because it really, like, fires up my my fans and everything when I do this before crashing. Well, I've never encountered this where it just stops. So I'm not sure what to think of that. It seems frozen. If I click OK, nothing happened. Ah, fuck. Where was I? I was right here. Okay. Can we try it again? Okay, just restart. Yeah, it just can't seem to generate that for the whole thing. So I don't know. I think what I'm meant to do is just take a section and then generate a kingdom based off that. I don't know how to do that. But I imagine that's what I'm meant to do. So if I could just take... Where were we exactly? Where the fuck were we? Here. We were down here. Okay. So if I could just generate like this X into a region, that would be something. But I don't know how to do that, and it doesn't seem like an easy thing to do. Yeah, I don't know. So I was hoping that it would work because it seemed like, okay, we have our entire world here. But if I could just... pick out a specific hex. I mean, we could try generating less than 6. We could go down to like 3 and see if that goes through, because that's a far smaller number. But no, it still couldn't do that. It's like it wants to do it, but it just can't do it. Could be my computer. I don't know. Maybe other people can do this. I mean, we don't have to go down to kingdom level. We could just operate on this scale and assume that these are... I don't know, these still have to be pretty hefty hexes, don't they? For this scale? I mean, these have to be... the big ones have to be hundreds of miles, right? Like 200 or 300 miles. So... if this is, say, 200 miles across, these are maybe 30 or 40 mile hexes. Like, that's not really a usable scale. So yeah, we really need this to be... Right, you'd think that it would just be a common thing that people want to do. We could instead go and make a continent view level map. But I don't know if that would I don't know if that would do what we want. Or we could just make the world smaller. So this could be 100 by 50. The only options are like it's one region or it's the full world. And if you do one region, I find that it just generates far too much water. And then it's like a lot of these options don't make sense. You're not going to want to generate empires or anything. But I guess, yeah, you might want more land frequency. But it still seems like a lot of water at all times. Even if I bump this up to 100% land, like, where is the water coming from at all times? There's just always so much water. And this is with the mostly large continents. I mean, none of these options matter. If I bring land frequency down all the way, it's like this, like nothing changes because I don't know, I just don't get it. I don't get it. It's not a perfect program, I think. It would really be nice to make it work through this program, because it has a lot of the other features that I like, and it's pretty easy. I mean, you could do this, I guess. Like, if we generate this. This is your continent level map. And then we could... Okay, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so really I should have done just world view. And this is the whole world map, which is nonsense, obviously. I mean, what world looks like this? But oh yeah, there you go. So that's the world view. Right, and then you generate this. And then it broke, of course. There you go. So there's your world map, which looks quite a bit more cramped. And very strange roads going through everything. It's not a very... Yeah, it's not great. But okay, so then you can zoom down. And so then we go to continent view from here. Done. And so now... it looks like a much better scale for our purposes. Look for like another good borderland region or something like that. Something like, yeah, like around... Yeah, I usually like more wooded area. Like something like this, I guess. And then we go down to kingdom. Same scale. See if it does it. No, it just cannot do it. My computer or something just cannot do kingdom scale. Which is really a bummer. So we might have to ditch Worldographer for this idea. So instead, we could look back at Hexcrawl. If we just wanted automatic generation. Okay, so the here, hold on. Okay. All right. So we did this before, but say generate a kingdom because it's a reasonable size, and pretty much keep everything as it is. Now, what I'm not interested in really is like the random stuff that it fills it with, like the random which one is that? Yes. I'm not interested in all the random little dungeons and random little plot hooks and random encounters, the random quests, because most of that is all just nonsense. The thing is, like, looking at this, like, the scale is just not as satisfying as I could tell that Worldographer's scale would be. Where it's like, my god, look at it, just, like, immense. There's the immensity, I think, to Worldographer. Obviously, too immense. Much too immense. But this, yeah, it just... But I guess we generated one kingdom. If I try and generate an empire... It's a lot more work, obviously. But their servers can handle stuff where my computer apparently can't. So here you have a bigger region. But the scale is still iffy, right? The scale just doesn't feel that immense. Obviously, we don't know what the size of these hexes are. It doesn't say that, but there's like one random encounter or something going on here. There's this whole settlement, this castle, that's what's in this hex. Yeah, it just doesn't, and this is something that generates all this for you, so really I feel like there should be like 20 more hexes within this hex, and that might be the scale that I'm looking for. So I don't think Hexcrawl is ultimately gonna be something I'm interested in. And I paid for Worldographer, so I wanted to work. Just wanted to work, man. There should be a way, according to this, like, there should be a way to just take a region. Right? Shouldn't there be a way to just take a region and make a smaller map out of that? Well, I mean, there's obviously an extensive amount of manuals on the site, which could be useful if I want to sit here and read all this. Reading. One major feature in Worldographer Pro is the ability to have multiple map view levels in one map file. This enables the author to create a world map view with only major features, a continent level map, which contains the entire world map, not just a continent, but on a smaller scale per hex and more features, and a kingdom level map, which can have every village and point of interest. Okay, hold on. Oh, this is the option for the region map. Okay. For each row, the number in each column is the percent chance that the terrain type of that column would be randomly chosen to populate a tile adjacent to the current tile. Okay. So, if I want no water whatsoever, no, that doesn't sound right. And obviously, that didn't do anything. So, that's not correct. But then if I increase the amount of water, that also doesn't do anything. Yeah, I still don't get it. Okay. Map levels. Uh-huh. No. Okay, it still doesn't answer all my questions. Still doesn't. The only thing is you just can't, it just can't generate at its default scale that it sets it to of 6. So, okay, let's go back to making a big world. Big world. I'll even reset defaults. And we'll go with something like, oh, I don't know. This is all one big landmass. Okay, fine. Just go with that. And we'll generate Empire. We won't generate Hexcrawl, blah, blah, blah. Do everything else. It's gonna make my world. It's adding rivers. It's adding empires. Done. Okay, so we have our world again. Blah, blah, blah. So now we go down to continent. And instead of 6 here, we can set this to 3. Done. Like, that was real simple, right? So, not quite the scale we're looking for. But now, if I try going to 6 for kingdom level, probably still going to crash or freeze. Oh, we did it! Okay, there's our scale. So now... Ooh, okay, so you got the big hex, you got the middler hex, you got the small hex, and now we could go again to provincial level if we really wanted to. Which you might want to. I mean, the scale here is still kind of big, right? I don't know, maybe you don't. This is a pretty big map. A pretty big map. Alright, let's say that we have a starting village. Like, oh god, I don't know, where's a river? Where are all the rivers? That's near a swamp, a lot of swamp area. Oh my god, this whole place is a swamp. Look at this massive plain with just nothing. What the hell, man? Don't we get lakes or something? Can't you generate lakes? You can generate coasts, roads. No lakes of any kind are allowed. Just this massive, giant plain. Jeez. Also, really weird rivers. This is what you get when you do random generation, I suppose. But there, alright, so let's say we want to generate hexcrawl locations. Apparently it did it. It did? I don't think you did. I think you told me you did. But I don't think you actually did. It's weird to not get like a loading process or anything. It just, no, just says it generated. Okay, and then we gotta break it by going to provincial level. Whoa, look at that shit. Look at this map. It's too immense. Okay, well, here's your scale, I guess. And they added new terrain features all over the place. Scattered farmland and just grazing land. Good lord. Well, here's your scale, I guess. It's just you gotta populate it yourself, and it's incredibly laggy to move. But there you go. You have a whole world you can play in. Okay, so I feel like we're not actually accomplishing anything here. And we should go back to sort of my original idea and just generating like a blank area and, you know, develop a reasonable size of like 30 by 30 to start with. Oops. And just go from there, you know. Right. Now, rather than doing like the sandbox generator method of random stuff, instead we could try just the terrain wizard where we paint areas that kind of fit what we're looking for. And let the wizard fill in all the inter bits. And you really don't, I mean, you know, a lot of this stuff's gonna be pretty generic. You want like kind of a big mountain range, you know, just big kind of mountain range in one area that you can play with. You're gonna want like a kind of a big forest area here, maybe a little forest there, sort of a swampy area here. Probably do some ocean stuff. So if we want to paint coastline, that would be maybe like that as a coastline, and then the ocean beyond that could be something more like that. We definitely want a good amount of just grassland basically everywhere else. Maybe some lightly wooded trees around there. What else would you want? Hills? Probably some hills. Sort of dotting the area, so on and so forth. Things like that. You could have then maybe in one area. Yeah, maybe among the mountains. Got more like Badlands. And then maybe you have another bit of water down here somewhere. Alright, let's just leave it at that. I just want to generate and just see what it does. There you go. So it's a little monotonous, for sure. it's a, you know, it definitely could use some more texture to it. Because what it won't do is sort of what I did, where I just plopped in hills among a region. It basically just takes whatever you've put down and expands it. So if you want more different stuff, then you have to specifically put that in. So we could put mountain forests in there. We could have like a dead zone down here. We could have maybe more tundra, snowfield sort of stuff up here. Things like that. You could have ice mountain region up there, stuff like that. Yeah, we could have farmland around the big cities that's going to be there. So if we want to make sure this is all that, we can do that. But then maybe some hilly stuff that leads into colder stuff. You know, stuff like that. And then pretty soon you got a map, you know? What else could we possibly throw in here? Like, maybe like a savanna, grazing land kind of area. Just get in there and mix it up. Look, you throw in a fungal forest down here. This is all fungal forests. Make it interesting. It's better. It's better. And then from there you could generate coasts. So that adds a little texture there. And then you could generate Hexcrawl locations. Like so. There's all your Hexcrawl locations. And then you could also generate... Well, you can't generate... You can generate Nation Empire. But that's like... The scale that we're working off of is... Well, I mean, I guess this is like your world scale. Then you could go down to continent scale. And then go from there. And I guess that adds a lot more texture to the proceedings. Although it's an insane amount of farmland. Good God. That's not realistic. That's not going to be realistic at all. So that should be more hilly areas and stuff. And then you go even further down to the kingdom level. Boom, there you go. And now, again, just like absurd amount of farmland, completely unrealistic. But I got, look at you, little packets of water there near the coast. So, I mean, yeah, I guess you could do stuff like that. It's not the worst thing. But then it's like... So where are my... So see the Hexcrawl. That's the thing. Now they're generated at this scale. Like, this scale is absurd. This is far too few Hexcrawl locations for it to make any sense. What the hell? Alright, we're just breaking things now. Okay, so this is... So you could do something like this if you want it to be more just like a little bit of pre-planned, but then you don't want to fill in every last tile. But you are going to end up with just large blocks of the same type of terrain. So it's kind of up to you. The other thing that we could do, I suppose... We're just bouncing all over the place. Let's see, where is that? I... No, I don't have that up anymore. Okay, hold on. Alright. So another thing that we could try is actually doing the generation from an echo resounding, which is all about domain play and everything like that. And so we looked at this for mass combat rules, but it also has the whole thing about building a campaign region. And this isn't necessarily meant for Hexcrawl. You can just do this with anything. But it certainly works with Hexcrawl. So this says, the map should be at a scale comfortable to your planned campaign. Something about the size of Red Tide's Westmark is a good starting point, as it's roughly 40,000 square miles of terrain of varying types in a square region, 200 miles on a side. Alright, so if we wanted to go off of that, just close all these maps that we don't need anymore. No. So 200 miles on a side is the region that we're looking for, which that again points back to the problem of generating one region and it just looking like shit, and I just don't know how to not make it look like shit. Just always seems to be covered in water. Well, that's if we want a random generation. I guess maybe we prefer it to be blank. I don't know. I'm not sure actually which one I'd prefer. What I would prefer is for it not to be filled with water, and I don't know how to ever get around that. None of this... No setting I ever change changes how much water is present, which tells me I'm just doing something drastically wrong. And I can't find like any discussion about this specific setting, and it just by default generating far too much water. There's a whole section here about how the random world generator works. But it's like... nothing you do... Okay, there we go. So if we change the water thing to something not water, then we don't get any water. So we could change this to just varied farmland, and then we get a region that looks like that. I think the problem is... Okay, maybe the problem is that whatever I change this to gets overwhelmingly full. So maybe you're supposed to change these things to be like way more hills and grassland. Way more grassland. Nope, doesn't. Whatever I put in that last slot just knocks everything out. It's because the last row is that. So really, I should change this to, like, grassland. And then change the grassland one to ocean or something, and then we might have something. Change this to grassland, change grassland to ocean. See how that looks. Alright, now there's some pockets of water now. Okay. So we can generate... do we want to generate coasts? No, these are meant to be like lakes. But we can generate rivers. We'll skip empires. We can generate roads, although there's not going to be any settlements. So, something like that, I guess. And then, well, so the scale. This is a region map. So this is like kingdom scale, right? So if we're looking at 6-mile hexes, that means that across 200 divided by 6 is like 30 something. Yeah, I have a calculator here. 200 divided by 6, 33. So we're actually pretty on the money here for our scale. So 33. Let's get something with... Okay, that. So let's see how this looks. Okay, so this covers 200 miles on a side at a scale of 6-mile hexes. The problem is that it looks fucking atrocious. Like, this is just a complete jumble of nonsense. So I don't think this is really what we want. We need to tweak these settings. Because there's way too much desert. We don't want that much desert. We don't really want any desert. So this should be like hills. I guess we already have a lot of hills. Well, there's no swamp. I'd rather have marshland or something like that. Like flat fen or maybe wetlands. Which now we've gone back to massive amounts of water. How did that get reset? Grassland. Ocean. Okay, good. I think it's reason. It's still going to just be an insane jumble. Unless you do everything yourself, no random generator is going to be that good. We've already gone over this. All right, so here's a new one. It still has these dunes, which I guess I could just knock out myself and not give a shit. Various things. We definitely have an overwhelming amount of this flat, whatever this stuff is, grazing land. But it's better. We're getting better. A lot of grazing land. It's poor quality. We're just gonna knock out all these desert stuff. There's also still a lot of random mountains, so I think we probably want to nix that. We'll go with like heavy... I don't know, these are all mountains. I guess I'd rather have like dark forest hills wherever I have mountains. But you want like a mountain range or something. But a lot of these just scattered mountains just don't make any sense. That was probably okay, but stuff like that. It's not all gonna make sense. Something like that is fine. I don't know, I'm still not pleased with it. Even just looking at it, I'm like, oh, this is just a ridiculous mixture of nonsense. When I could just take someone else's map and just run it. To be honest, we don't even really need the Hexcrawl. We could remove the hex aspect entirely and just have a map. You know, and if you search like D&D region map, you're going to find literally 100,000 maps that people have made, and they just haven't applied a hex to it, like a hex grid to it. And we can just take anybody's map and just play in it. The thing with the Hexcrawl is that it's, especially with this design, it's very clear what each thing is. Whereas a lot of these people's region maps that they put together with like Incarnate and stuff, it's kind of hard to tell, and distances are always very vague. The Hexcrawl has a lot of appeal for a sandbox because it's just, it's very obvious what everything is. But there aren't that many hex maps compared to how many just maps, like region maps, world maps, and stuff like that in general there are for D&D campaigns. There are practically no hex maps for D&D campaigns because it's not that common of a concept. But, you know, anybody that sets down to make like, oh yeah, I'm doing world building, I want to make a map and I'm going to make it look really pretty and use, you know, Photoshop or Incarnate or whatever to make a really pretty world map. You know, they're not typically making it a hex. The problem is that we're really dipping into art here. And I have no art ability. I really struggle with visualizing anything. So I can't really sit down and just like make a map like these people can. And I can't even do like a hex map or anything. That's why I kind of keep looking at these automated tools, but then I just get disappointed because it's not very good. So like, okay, let's... Let's see here. I view this. Alright, so here, this is a map. This was posted on Reddit. Apparently this is for a third-party campaign or adventure module. I'm not quite sure. I think it's a campaign called Crown of the Oathbreaker, which I think I actually looked at recently when I was trying to think of a campaign to run for my family. So this map was made for that. But literally, you could just take this and just run it as your own campaign. You have no knowledge of what all these are meant to be, and you just kind of put things together yourself as if it were a Hexcrawl. Because we really don't have to run it as anything. We don't have to run a Hexcrawl to have a sandbox campaign, obviously. It's just one form of it. And we have a general distance scale here. It's just, yeah, again, the Hexcrawl just makes it a lot easier. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where this campaign is meant to start exactly, but I would guess probably around like Willow Creek would be the most likely option. And so yeah, you could just run this. And the thing is, for our purposes, OSR purposes and stuff like that, we'd probably want a lot more... We'd want monster layers, and we'd want a lot more little dungeons and stuff than this is going to have. But even if you don't run this directly, I could just make a map in Worldographer that's based on this. The problem with Worldographer is I don't think it's even possible to just add rivers manually. So that's an annoying part. I don't think it's... Oh, maybe you can add just shape. I guess you can add shapes. Yeah, okay, so you can. You could just add a curved shape like that. And there's your river. I guess that was more of a jizz line, but yeah, okay, I guess you could add rivers. So yeah, I mean, you could just make this map in Worldographer, and then you'd have your whole hex map. Or you could take any region map. It doesn't even have to have buildings or anything on it. You could just add that in yourself. It's mostly just like the terrain that I struggle with, because I don't want this random mishmash of bullshit. Ugh! Struggling. Maybe we should just let set this aside for now and just do a dungeon and come back afterwards. Maybe I'll do more research. So let's start something while we're sitting here. Even though it's been 2 hours. We've done nothing. Alright, whatever. I'm setting this aside for now. The reason I wanted to look at an Echo Resounding for the construction of the region is because it really is creating a map with domain play eventually in mind. Much like Axe does, but this is a bit more simple. You start, you have your map, you have the region and everything, you have the terrain, mountains and forests and rivers, and you have all that in place. And then you put down population centers, and you put it down with the terrain and everything in mind. It's going to be along rivers, or along seacoast where a river empties into the ocean. And so it talks about how you're only going to have, like, one city in the whole region. Because that's the one major city, just because of how much farmland and, peasants and farmers it takes to sustain a city of 100,000 people or whatever. But then you're going to have... because this is all with a borderland region in mind. This isn't the heart of the empire or anything. So you're only going to have one city in the borderland region that's that big. But you might have a couple. If it's a really rich, well-developed land or something, there's a lot of people in the borderlands, and it's not going to be borderlands for long at that rate. But yeah, so you probably want one major city at least, and then you have 4 towns for each city. These are smaller market towns of 1 to 2,000 people, so kind of like our Baileythorpe place. You're going to have 4 of those for every city you have in... yeah, they're going to be pretty spread out. Again, along rivers, lake shores, coasts. Water is one of the primary things that's a determination for a settlement. And then you place the great ruins from past civilizations. These are going to be your dungeons and things like that. The big former places of civilization. So these are going to have 5 ruins for every city in the region. And these should generally be in locations also like as if they were once cities or settlements of some kind. So along rivers, places where things were habitable, but it's a fantasy world, so the terrain could have been wildly different, 10,000 years ago. So it's not the end of the world putting something in the middle of, like, a wasteland or in the middle of a forest or something, So 5 ruins for every city. Then you establish resources. And this is where you really differentiate, because most gamers are never going to give a shit about this, but this is with the domain play in mind, and this is what, kingdoms fight over. Like rich farmland, or really good fishing grounds, or, big forests, or places with precious ore. And this is kind of where towns set up. Often is places where the kingdom wants to profit from these resources. So you're going to have a number of resource locations equal to the number of towns, roughly equidistant from each other. Try to put them a little distant from any towns or cities. If they're too close, it becomes too easy for a settlement to exert its control over the resource, and it becomes harder to have an interesting struggle for its control with other unfriendly neighbors. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. And then layers for monsters, animals, bandits, savages, all that sort of stuff. So these are your, typical monster layers. And these are going to be placed along obvious land and water routes between cities and towns. Along each route, place a layer roughly equidistant between the settlements. This makes travel dangerous, obviously. And that's the whole point. These are the types of things that prey on travelers. So they're going to pop up wherever travelers are. Isolated, groups and individuals. Finally, inspect the map. Oh, also there's layers near any resource locations that are remote from a town or city. Similar concept. Finally, inspect the map, check for holes in it where there are stretches of land without any location of interest. Fix these holes by placing a layer in the barren area. Could well be that the area is empty because of the depredations of its occupants. Yeah, then after that, you're assigning traits to locations, names for locations, obstacles that prevent, that obstacles that are keeping the place a borderland instead of just being a rich and controlled area. Yeah. And then you establish the actual domains of the different kingdoms and which territory they control and which they're vying for. Stuff like that. So I think it's pretty interesting. It's not like Sandbox Generator where we're rolling on tables and all this sort of stuff. And a lot of it is just like advice to you as a DM for constructing your region map. But I think it's all pretty good. If I was the type that was going to make it from scratch. So I don't know. I'll have to look more into this and I don't know. Maybe I'll end up using a map from Hexcrawl or something. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't want to waste any more of our time with it. And I think my Foundry crashed when we tried to generate the massive world. All right. So the usual start, though. We're gonna be doing the usual start. We're all in a starting village. And there's going to be a dungeon nearby that we've heard has treasure or loot. And now we're in the business of going on purpose into dangerous locations rather than, seeking revenge or, being incidentally thrown into danger. So that's what's going to happen. So we need a dungeon. And we have to decide if we want to do another, really old school thing. Do we want to do something pretty new for OSE? Do we want to come up with something ourselves? That's usually the last case, because I'm very not creative. But, yeah, we definitely want to do a dungeon of some kind. Or we could do something like Keep on the Borderlands, which also has dungeons. Or we could do Morgan's Fort. One of the two. I don't know. Do I want to do another? We just kind of did an old one. We were doing Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. So that might be a little too fresh, although there is a fuck ton of those old school modules to run. So yeah, I don't think we want to run anything huge. So it's like, what's a small, simple one? There are some newer ones, and well, yeah, obviously there's a lot of old stuff, there's a lot of new stuff, there's a lot of stuff. We could do. I do have a couple that I grabbed for Tales of Argosa. I guess we could do. I also have a load of. I think technically, actually, they're for 3.5 edition. Like, there was like a humble bundle, or no, it was a bag of holding, I think, that was DCC modules, but like, I think they were from the original stuff for 3.5 edition. Hold on. Okay. Let's just try this one. I have no idea what it's about. I have no idea if it's good. But it's by Harley Stroh, who's a pretty, accomplished module author. And this is a Goodman Games Dungeon Crawl Classics module. But this isn't written for DCC. This was written like before DCC became a thing. They started making modules for 3.5 edition, D&D 3.5. Because, obviously the game was starting to go into a different direction in general at that point. Much more kind of heroic fantasy and away from how modules and adventures used to be written. So that's why they created Dungeon Crawl Classics. So, yeah, this is statted for 3.5 edition. And that's why a lot of people don't think of DCC, the system, as an OSR system, because it's actually largely based on and inspired by 3.5 rather than like actually based off of BX D&D or something. But that's, a squabble. So, I don't know. I saw this map, and it looked relatively small and relatively simple, and it's a dungeon, so we're just going to give it a shot. So, the stats are going to be questionable. We may have to just take Tales of Argosa enemies and slot them in. But, yeah, we're gonna fucking give it a shot. So let's do it. It's designed for 4 to 6 characters of 1st to 3rd level. Well, we are 4 characters of 1st level, but are we stronger or less strong than a 1st level 3.5 character? I have no idea. I wonder if I can find a pre-gen or just find a character. Pre-generated characters. Let's find a pre-generated fighter. Fighter 19. What the hell does that mean? Oh, this is a level 14 fighter? Yep, 168 hit points. Yes, it sure is. Why are all the pre-gens like level 19 and shit? What if I just want a level 1? These are meant to be NPC pre-gens, but still, I mean, this is off the charts. You really didn't have 1st level fighter pre-gen? Fuck. No, apparently not. Oh, here's just an NPC generator. Okay, let me just see. Fighter, level 1. There you go. Male fighter, level 1, blah, blah, blah. So he has 12 HP, which is actually less than we have. So that's a good sign. We're ahead of the curve. He has an attack of +2 with his strength of 13. So that's kind of on the mark. Everything else is, typical D&D shit. So I think we're kind of on a good spot. Maybe ahead of the curve slightly, which is where I want to be. So, okay, that's good. That's all good. Getting the players involved. The adventure begins with the characters at the foot of the craggy ridges outside of the town of Killamar, with the ruins of Castle White Rock shimmering in the distance. GM should take advantage of the PC's background to craft specific ties to the caverns of the Sea Hell, or take inspiration from the following plot hooks. Dude, I cannot talk these days, man. The son of Michael the Tavern Master is gone missing for the last week. He was last seen playing on the high heather above Killamar. Desperate, the Tavern Master has scraped together a few dozen gold pieces to hire the adventurers to track down his lost son. Perfect. That's what we're going with. So we all happen to meet up with each other again after a year since our, the incident. It just so happens that the Tavern Master cries out, "Please, my son!" And we agree to do heroic shit. We can skip the background. We can skip a lot of this stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Alright. The ancient menhir, carved with spiraling runes and raised by unknown hands, stands half buried atop the high, grassy moor. Below you sits the town of Killamar, surrounded by outlying farmsteads. Against the backdrop of towering snow-capped peaks and thick coniferous forests, dark and foreboding, your home seems isolated and precarious. A shout from your companions breaks your reverie. They've discovered something unusual about the Standing Stone. The runes sparkle and glow, then a section of the Standing Stone slides aside, stone grating on stone, revealing a small staircase descending into the hillside. Attempts to decipher the runes of the menhir reveal that the symbols are a form of ancient Gnomish. Crudely translated in modern tongue, the runes warn away intruders and praise the benevolence of Poteron, the Deep Delver. Does Tales of Argosa go into languages at all? Does it mention that? It does talk about languages, so that must be a thing. But does it have a list? Let's see what it says about languages. Comprehend languages. Yep. Nope. So it does not have any guideline whatsoever for language. It's just assumed, I guess, that you speak Common. I mean, the general assumption is you speak like Common, and then dwarves speak Dwarvish, Halfling speaks Halfling. Actually, that's usually not the case. Elves speak Elvish. Half-Scorn might speak Scornish. And then depending on your int, you might have bonus languages. So 1 extra language for every mod. So that means that Villagrad does speak 2 extra languages. Should we make one of them Gnomish, just to make the adventure more interesting? Languages. Gnomish. Done. Alright, and he'll roll int. And this would be for Decipher. Decipher Script DC 15. Probably just an int, but there must be a skill corresponding to it. Would we count that as just general lore? General catch-all lore skill, recalling a broad range of historical, scientific, and political information, but not arcane, animal, divine, or wilderness. Well, I guess it depends on what it is. It's a form warning away intruders, praising the benevolence of Poteron the Deep Delver. I think this is divine. I think that's... Yeah, okay. This would be divine lore. Int. So Villagrad does not have a bonus here. Tress does have the bonus, but she also is just less likely to succeed. So Villagrad, and he reads Gnomish, so it's fine. He rolls, and he succeeds, so we interpret it as being what I just said. A cursory search of the ground around the menhir turns up matted grass and trodden ground. Okay, that I feel I would just give to players. You see matted grass around the stone and trodden ground. Clearly someone has been around here recently. But then there's a second check. Confirms what the heroes likely already suspect, that some sort of creature regularly uses the Hidden Menhir portal. Okay, yeah, I think that's unnecessary. So we'll just skip all that. Obviously, something is here regularly. But we will descend into the darkness. The caverns of the Sea Hell are split between the elaborate stonework of the Silver Heel gnomes and the natural caverns of the Dark Crystal. Where the original stonework remains, the floor is smooth, and the walls show several engraved artistic embellishments, typically pastoral scenes of gently sloping hills or lightly wooded areas, complete with the burrowing mammals gnomes are famous for having befriended. The elaborate artwork makes these walls easier to climb than the walls of the natural caverns, which are smooth and slick with moisture. The air of the dungeon smells of stagnant water and algae. Except where noted, the galleries and caverns have a gloomy violet light. In the absence of any other light source, creatures lacking special vision treat all enemies as having concealment. Ooh. Well, we definitely want a light going. We didn't hire a porter yet, so we're on our own. Yeah, I was just thinking about modifiers, because obviously D&D sets DCs for everything. But this is a roll under system, so it's all about rolling under your stat. But yeah, modifiers +1 or -1, +2, -2. But going beyond that, you could go with advantage and disadvantage. And then for very difficult tasks, the GM might require a great success to actually do it. But yeah, so I guess most of the time we want +1, -1, or, something like that. And then if it's really, big advantage or big disadvantage, use those mechanics. But yeah, I think a lot of the time it's just going to kind of be a default roll. So, all right, our light system. We are looking at, I think, Corin for our lamp. So that's just going to be kind of attached to her belt. Is there a better person to use this? Tress is going to be in melee. See, Danton has the spear. So if we do doorway strats, it's kind of better for him to be behind Tress. But I don't know if I want to throw Tress into a situation like that. I don't know. She's got a 15 AC. She'd really benefit from like a club. If we could get her a club and then give her a shield as well, she'd be in much better shape to tank. Because Danton has the spear. He wants to be in the rear. But I guess it's a horse apiece. So, yeah, I mean, I suppose we'll just have... We're going to have Tress have the lamp on her, because she'll be closer to the front. Alright. So that's that. We don't want that 20% miss chance. A cursory inspection of the dungeon's walls and ceilings reveal that they all seem to be covered in a dark mold or soot. A closer look reveals that the mold is really thousands of tiny black crystals that coat the dungeon like a fine layer of dust. Oh, God. That seems good for your lungs. The crystals are too small to have any worth, but if crushed, they release a greasy liquid that glows brightly before fading in 1d3 rounds. Unless otherwise stated, all passages are 5 feet high. 5 feet high?! Oh, God, we're like hunched over because this is for gnomes. Ugh. All doors are made of unadorned iron, weak with rust. Okay. Yeah, random encounter tables. Once every hour? Once every hour? Oh, okay. So once every hour, you have some sort of encounter. It's just on a 1 through 3 result, you have this thing, which is the more, like, just thematic kind of ominous stuff. And then on a 4 or 5, you get an actual monster. Still, I mean, how long are you actually going to be down here that you're going to be rolling this more than once? Every hour? If we assume 10 minutes is a room, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So after this whole first section, maybe, you'd roll one of those, and chances are it's just going to be like somebody laughing in the distance. And then the second half is like another hour. So it doesn't seem too much. I think we're going to go with the underclock because we like it. So let's get our party resources. Oh yeah, we were doing the dungeon tally system, but we don't like that. We like our underclock. Where was that? Yeah, we'll find some other image here. Icon, skill, no, not that. No, it's gotta be something ominous. Okay. I guess it could be anything. We'll just go with this. Okay, there's our underclock. 1T. Now the lamp here burns for 12 hours. Well, it says 1 pint of oil burns 12 hours. Within this, the oil flask says using a lantern to provide 6 hours of illumination. Although this is for shedding light in melee area, which seems really small. So I think maybe I grabbed the wrong lantern. I grabbed the lamp, but what we wanted was a hooded. Yeah, the hooded one. Okay. Never mind. Okay, 6 hours of illumination. That's still an insanely long time. We're never going to be down here for 6 hours. So it's like I could track it, I guess. But instead of basically we put it as so 6 is an hour. So we'd set it to 36 if we really cared to track this. But at that point, it's almost like I don't care. Oh, we'll see. All right. Here we go. Shallow stone stairs descend into small, darkened chamber. Thick, dusty cobwebs cover the ceiling and corners, and the air is stale with age. In the far corner of the room is a battered husk of an old crate. Okay, well, we definitely want to inspect the crate. Yeah, so marching order is Danton, Tress. No, I guess it's Tress, Danton, Villagrad, Corin is going to be our order here. Tress up front. I wouldn't have suspected, although her stats are pretty good all around. The wooden crate is covered in dust and crushed beneath a fallen ceiling beam. A visual inspection of the crate shows a skull hidden amid the broken planks. The skull cannot be reached without disturbing the wreckage, causing a portion of the ceiling to fall, choking the air with dust, and dropping a trio of orc skeletons into the chamber. The skeletons, placed by this sea hell, attack anything living in the room. Okay. Well, let's do that, I guess. So we reach for the skull, but we kind of shift the wreckage. Portion of the ceiling falls near us. Doesn't sound like it's a threat. But then 3 large skeletons tumble out and then stand, carrying battle axes and wearing armor with heavy steel shields. Okay, combat starts then. There's no surprise here, really. They wouldn't activate that quickly. So we're looking at 6 HP for them. It says they have a +5 initiative, but that's irrelevant because initiative is entirely player focused. AC of 19. Okay, see, that's where we gotta... that's a no. That's not happening. They have scale mail armor, which is 3 AC, plus a shield, which is 1. So they have 14, depending on their dex mod, which is 13. So I'll give them a 15 AC to be nice. I'm pretty sure that's the correct math there. So 15 AC, 6 HP. So they're not too hard to kill. But they all have battle axes, which they're gonna attack at +2 and deal 1d8 +2 damage. Also, they have damage reduction 5 bludgeoning because they're skeletons, but most games kind of throw that out. And I think if we go down and look at the Tales of Argosa skeleton, let's compare. 11 AC, 1 hit dice, so like 4 HP, 1d6 +1 damage. Immune to piercing damage. Oh, that's tricky. That includes arrows. So I guess we'll abide by that. Do we want to... No, I want them to have 15 AC. These are not normal little skeletons. They are decked out in armor and have shields. So they are a little tricky, and they'll have 6 HP because they're orc skeletons, as if that matters. Alright, so who do we want to roll first for initiative? Probably Tress. And then we have 2 rounds of pretty solid initiative before a third shitty one. And we failed, so the skeletons are going to go first. So let's have 2 of them attack Tress, and 1 is going to attack Danton, who also has the unfortunate problem of having a spear. I'm not sure what to do about that. But alright, so 2 attacks against Tress. These are at +2 on their dice roll. Let me get my dice. Good. Boom, boom. So a 16 is a hit. 1d8 +2 damage is quite painful. 8 damage. Well, actually, hold on. Yeah, actually, no, I think that is correct, because Tales of Argosa does apply strength to attack rolls and damage. Yeah, both. So it is reasonable for them to do that. That is a normal amount of damage. And that's always going to be a somewhat bothersome amount of damage, even at high level. That is kind of annoying, because you're never going to have that much health. So 8 damage is always like, ugh, but here it's just especially bad, and we go down to 6. But we have Cure Wounds and Short Rests. Don't worry. Then the one attack on Danton is a 15, so that is a miss. Okay, our turn. We unfortunately have quite a bit of piercing damage here. Tress will counterattack with her staff. Yeah. With 2 hands. She rolled a 9, so that is a big whiff. Would have done fantastic amount of damage, though. And then Villagrad, he does have Summon Elemental, which I could use. And there's not much reason not to cast it like every fight, for the most part. Especially here, where we were kind of lacking in damage. So, yeah, we will cast Summon Elemental. Which means I have to click Spellcraft. And then we have to roll Int. Great success. Okay. I'm not counting great successes for anything. The actual Tales of Argosa spells often do. I guess practically all the Tales of Argosa spells do include some sort of bonus from Great Success. But I don't know if we want to count it as a crit for Shadow Dark purposes, where you get to double a numerical value. That seems a bit too good. So here's where we kind of run into one of the biggest hurdles. Is, do I want to count it as a crit effect? I guess. Fuck it. What's the worst that could happen? It means you get a crit effect on for us, a 7 or higher. Whereas normally in Shadow Dark, that would only be on a 20. But, you know, it's pretty, it's pretty good. I don't know. Maybe that's a little too powerful. We'll see. So what would I double for the Summon Elemental? Well, I guess we could double, what, the hit dice number, the attack bonus number, or the damage number to 2d4? Well, yeah. So we can either go to 9 health or plus 2 attack or 2d4 damage, really, is what we're looking at. Maybe the hit dice would be the way to go to make it kind of a threatening target for them. It wouldn't die in one hit. So, alright, we're going to summon the elemental, and it has 9 health, 12 AC, plus 1 attack, and 1d4 damage. I don't know if it gets to go right away. But if it doesn't get to go right away, then it could die before it gets to do anything, which is pretty lame. So we'll let it take an attack immediately against one of these stupid skeletons. And we roll. We got a 10, so that's nothing. And that's nothing. Corin has her bow, which will do nothing. It will go right through them, unfortunately. Then it depends on if we count the short sword as being piercing or not. I think not necessarily. Love that I'm just supposed to know what the rogue skirmisher ability is. Oh, you can give disadvantage on a opportunity attack against you. Okay. Yeah, so we're just gonna move in and roll the short sword against the one that Tress and the elemental attack. So we get +2 on this roll from that. That is a hit for 8 damage. Butchered him. No problem. So then we could attempt a major exploit to, like, follow through and try and smash through a second skeleton. Which would be a luck roll. But it's like, what's the... Yeah, major exploits are kind of a big question mark. Because, like, what's the limit? The limit is whatever the DM decides it is, you know. So it's like, say you're in a fight and there's like 12 goblins and you say like, okay, I want to just charge through and swing my dual weapons and just try and cut down 12 goblins. And then the DM has to sit there and be like, okay, well, where do I limit this so that he's not pissed off, but I don't just allow him to end the whole fight with one roll? Yeah, it's like, yeah. I saw definitely a lot of people complaining about the unique feature aspect, which you get at level 3, where you get to just design a unique feature for your character. And they were, you know, just like, oh my god, it sounds like such a fucking nightmare headache for the DM. Now, I thought it was really cool, because I thought it from a player perspective and stuff. I was like, oh, this is great. I love that kind of stuff. Just coming up with whatever you want, unlimited customization, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I could see from a DM perspective, you sitting there and you're either like, break your game by allowing too much stuff, or you have to sit there and be just the mean bad guy. It's like, no, we can't do that. Sorry. You gotta think of something worse. Please take your mind and think of something worse that you don't want. And that's what you can have. So yeah, I mean, I agree, it is a little iffy. I mean, they do give the big kind of list of examples, but there's not that many, and if you play the game a lot, you're gonna run through all those pretty easily. So then either the DM has to just allow custom stuff as intended, or come up with his own expanded list that there's like the approved list by the government. So yeah, I think major exploits are similar, but also perhaps even more finicky, because these are going to come up a lot, all the time, and it's like, I don't know. I don't know how many things you're allowed to kill with one roll. I think this whole concept could have used like three more pages of just examples and suggestions and advice and stuff. I'm not quite sure if minor exploits are intended where like you could hit one target and then do a minor exploit to a second target. I'm not sure if that's allowed. It's like, okay, say I hit one goblin and I kill him, and then I want to like prone a second goblin. Would that be allowed as a minor exploit? Even though I didn't hit that goblin? I guess the real question is, can I ever use a minor exploit if I kill my target with the attack? That's the real question. I don't know. I could go in the Discord and ask, I guess. And then major exploit is just... Well, the GM decides what modifiers apply, if any. So it's like, yeah, I guess you can come up with basically anything that follow these, like, this short list of rules, and assuming the DM is theoretically okay with it happening, he could just apply, like, okay, yeah, it's going to be at -5 and with disadvantage. Do you still want to do it? Like, yes. I'm going to cut down every last goblin in one turn. So, yeah, I guess... so in our case, yeah, so in our case, if I wanted to prone another skeleton, I think we could probably allow that as a minor exploit, because you still have to do an opposed check against that target. It does allow maybe some cheesiness if I like hit a really unarmored target, like I hit a mage, and then I can do a minor exploit on the plate armor knight next to him. So maybe that's not strictly allowed. I don't know. You still have to do the opposed check, though. But, yeah, the whole trigger is hitting the target. I don't know. It could be something I'd ask in the Discord, but I don't tend to do stuff like that. I don't like talking to people except myself. Whereas the major exploit, basically whatever you want goes, as long as it doesn't increase damage to a single target or instantly kill or incapacitate a single target. So what do we want to do? Do I want to attempt the major exploit? You may as well. You either do it, or there's really no penalty for failure. So I guess we'll do it. So we're just going to carry our blade through and try and slash through and cut down another orc skeleton next to them. And so we just have to make the luck check now, which is based on, well, based on strength would be pretty nice since it's an attack. So I guess we'll go for that. Great success. So our luck goes down by 1, and then we decide what happens exactly. I think you probably just roll damage. In this case, I don't know if you would just allow it to kill. I don't think you'd do that. So I think we'll roll damage. It's not the greatest major exploit. Probably not a very good use of my luck, assuming this doesn't kill it, which it has a 50% chance of killing it. No, slightly higher than that. Okay, we definitely killed him. Okay, so there you go. We killed 2 birds with 1 stone with a major exploit. I think that's fair. I think that's fair. So basically, instead of rolling a second attack the following turn and hoping I hit him, we just spent a luck point, which is maybe a fair trade-off. And then we have Danton, who is really kind of up shit creek because he has no way of damaging these skeletons with his spear. He'd have to take it off and go unarmed, which is not good. 1d2 damage plus strength mod. Alright, fuck it. We'll drop the spear and just punch this thing. We can't kill him unless I crit, but I might crit. So we're just going to be rolling d20 plus 2. Miss. Okay. Then that's that. Okay, new round. New initiative. Great success. Awesome. So now we'll have the elemental try to punch him. That's a miss at a 14. Then we'll have Tress try and smash him with the staff, because that's cool. That is a kill. Done. Okay, skeletons, relatively easy, except that hit sort of hurt. So Tress is going to short rest, try and get health back. Great success, so she'll go back to 10. I probably should have cast Cure Wounds before I did that, but oh well. It's fine. And then Villegrad's going to short rest to try and get back his spell, which he did. Boom. And then that's really all we care about. So we're good. Okay. Danton picks up his spear again, and we go inspect this skull now that caused this whole problem. It once belonged to a dwarf and has a small ruby embedded in the left eye socket, worth 150 gold. If the gem is placed in the empty eye socket of a living creature, it grants the wearer ability to detect magic once per day. This is a magic item. Oh, XP. I forgot. Oh, shit. We're almost done here, but yeah, XP. So that is worth at least 1 XP, and the combat was worth 1 XP. So we're going to grab 2 whole XP. And someone has to take this little gem, which is probably going to be Villegrad. So there's no easy way to just add treasure. Yeah, whoever is running the Tales of Argosa Foundry module, if you, on the insane off chance you're watching this, take a look at Shadow Dark. Take a look at that implementation. I think it does some good stuff that you might be interested in. Easy ways to add treasure. Easy ways to keep track of money. Things like that. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could just do unassigned gear and its equipment, I suppose, and we count this as... What is this thing? Ruby. Eye Ruby. Fake ruby eye. This is loot. Well, technically it's a magic item, I suppose. It's in my pack gear. This is going to be very rare. 1 slot, blah, blah, blah. And we're just going to be... See, yeah, the Shadow Dark makes it so easy to add treasure. 150 gold. Detect magic when placed in eye socket. Okay. There's a secret door cleverly hidden in the east wall of the chamber. Fashioned by no master craftsman, it is nearly impossible to spot, but a DC 15 search of the chamber reveals that the section of the wall concealing the door is colder than the surrounding walls and slightly damp with condensation. The stonework above the door depicts a gnome rune. Secret. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, Mikey. You're telling me that there's just a rune above the door? Isn't that kind of a giveaway? Well, let me roll underclock. 3, so we're down to 17. Well, if there's just a rune above, like, fucking Villagrad just looking around the room and he sees the word secret written above a door, a wall space. Seems like it kind of gives it away. So, yeah, I don't even know if we really need to roll perception, but I guess I'll have Villagrad himself roll perception to see if he notices the rune and can read it. Okay, he can. So, boom. Bada bing, bada boom. Which is good, because the corridor to the south dead ends before a false door. Falling down a pit 40 feet, taking 4d3 points of non-lethal damage into water, where you then have to make swim check to avoid drowning. Most non-magical light sources are extinguished in the waters. And there's something horrible there. So, yeah, good thing we found this. And by opening it up and everything, we get another XP, because that's part of exploration. Ooh, doggy. Okay, I think we're going to leave it off there. I know we got very little done, but we leveled up to 1. There's that. Yeah, I'll give a lot more consideration to what I want to do for, like, a hex map. And just, like, I just want to find, like, a default system that I'm happy with and comfortable with that I can use for solo games or for DMing for other people, and just like, okay, here's my hex map, and this is how I make it. I'm happy with it. It doesn't look like a random gobbledygook, but also doesn't require an insane amount of work. I don't know. I'll look more into it. For now, though, my name is Mang. This has been Solo Roll Manging with Tales of Argosa. I'll see you fine folks in the next part.